What began as quiet detentions is now surfacing as a dangerous pressure point between Washington and Caracas. Several Americans are being held inside Venezuela as U.S. pressure on President Nicolás Maduro sharply intensifies. The circumstances are murky, the timing is sensitive, and the stakes are unmistakable. Behind closed doors, officials on both sides are preparing for a confrontation that may go far beyond diplomacy. U.S. officials now confirm that at least 5 Americans have been detained in Venezuela in recent months. The arrests come as Washington escalates a sweeping pressure campaign against President Nicolás Maduro, one that includes sanctions, oil interdictions, covert operations, and military strikes. U.S. authorities say they are still piecing together why each American was in the country when detained. Some cases may involve alleged criminal activity, including drug smuggling. Others remain unexplained. What alarms U.S. officials is not just the detentions, but the timing. According to officials familiar with the matter, the Trump administration believes Maduro's government is holding Americans as leverage against the United States. The detentions coincide with a dramatic escalation in U.S. actions against Caracas. In recent months, Washington has blocked sanctioned Venezuelan oil vessels, intensified financial restrictions, and carried out strikes on drug trafficking operations linked to the regime. In December, the U.S. conducted its first known strike on Venezuelan soil, hitting a port facility in a CIA drone operation. At the same time, the State Department imposed fresh sanctions targeting members of Maduro's family, including nephews and close relatives. Trump administration officials have stopped short of openly calling for regime change, but they continue to label Maduro illegitimate, accusing him of narco-trafficking and repression. U.S. officials say the tactic mirrors a strategy long used by one of Venezuela's closest allies, Russia. Moscow has detained numerous Americans over the years during periods of high tension with Washington, often turning detainees into bargaining chips. Now, U.S. officials fear Caracas is following the same playbook. The New York Times was the first to report on the newly detained Americans. The State Department and White House have declined to comment publicly. Behind the scenes, officials say the situation remains fluid, with intelligence agencies still assessing the status and conditions of those being held. President Maduro has addressed the growing confrontation cautiously. Asked about the recent U.S. strike on a Venezuelan port, he suggested the issue could be discussed later, while insisting that Venezuela remained secure. In a televised interview, Maduro said the country's defense system guarantees peace, territorial integrity, and public safety.
If they want Venezuelan oil, Venezuela is ready for U.S. investment, just like with Chevron. Whenever they want, wherever they want, and however they want. In the United States, they should know that if they want comprehensive agreements for economic development, Venezuela is also here, as I have said 1,000 times. And to the people of the United States, I say what I have always said. Here in Venezuela, you have a brotherly people. To the people of the United States, I even say, here you have a friendly government. I know it well. The United States pretty much managed. Thus, through New York, Boston, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Queens, Manhattan. They need to know that this person they have put in place as the boss of the right wing is very isolated and repudiated in Venezuela. Today, we could say the United States has no allied political forces in Venezuela because this lady, named Maria Machado from Venezuela, is called La Sayona. It has an 85% rejection rate, total repudiation from Venezuelan society. Never, neither she nor what she represents would have the capacity to govern this country. The patriotic forces of the country, President Maduro, far beyond the PSUV, far beyond the great patriotic people, at this moment have over 70% support in the struggle I am leading for the defense of national sovereignty and for peace. Over 70. We have never had those numbers before. And let me tell you, there has been support for Commander Chavez here in all his stages. And let me tell you, we have gained support at different stages, as we have demonstrated in electoral processes. I have to say it now because we reached an agreement on January 31st of this year with the envoy Riz Renel. It was working perfectly. And 3 weeks ago, the authorities of the United States government gave up on continuing to send migrants to Venezuela and, simply put, they sent us more migrants. So they talk about the issue of migration, but they are the ones who suspended the migration agreement, among other topics which, if there were ever rationality and diplomacy, could be perfectly discussed. And we have the maturity and the stature. And besides, we are people of our word, Ramon. We are people of our word, serious people. And someday that could be discussed. They can't accuse me. Just as they can't accuse Venezuela of having weapons of mass destruction. Just as they can't accuse us of having nuclear missiles, of building a nuclear weapon, of having chemical weapons, so they invented an accusation that the United States knows is as false as that accusation about weapons of mass destruction, which led them into an endless war. The United States knows that this is false, so I think all of that needs to be set aside. And we need to start having serious conversations with facts in hand. And the United States government knows this because we've told many of their spokespeople that if they want to seriously discuss an agreement to fight drug trafficking, we are ready. Now, in the world, people need to understand, the American public needs to understand that our people in the South have the right to exist, to live, and you cannot try to impose, with the Monroe Doctrine or any doctrine, a new colonial model, a new hegemonic model, a new interventionist model, a model where countries have to resign themselves to being colonies of a power, and we, the people, slaves to new masters. That is unviable. Already in the 21st century, it is completely unviable. Venezuela has, I would say, a perfect model for combating drug trafficking. Today we managed to destroy the 40th foreign Colombian drug trafficking plane. Who brought it down today? Venezuelans did. My recognition goes to the pilots. Today it was neutralized in combat in the Venezuelan plains. The last operational leader of the Tren del Llano in Guárico and 4 of his criminal henchmen, the last one remaining from the Tren del Llano. We have a perfect model for fighting drug trafficking and criminal gangs. So all the cocaine that moves through this region is produced in Colombia. All of it, all the cocaine. We are victims of Colombian drug trafficking.
You had a conversation with President Trump, didn't you? And lately it has been said that there has been a second conversation. Can you confirm if this second conversation took place?
We've only had one conversation, Ramon. He called me on Friday, November 21st, from the White House. He was there, and I was at the palace, Miraflores. We talked for 10 minutes, and it was a conversation, as I said, respectful, very respectful.
Cordial. What did the president tell him?
The first thing Mr. told me, President Maduro. Excellent. And I said to him, Mr. President Donald Trump. And I truly believe that particular conversation was even quite pleasant, but the subsequent evolutions of that entire conversation from that initial point have certainly not been pleasant at all. Let's sincerely hope I completely leave absolutely everything in God's capable hands, trusting in divine providence.
Human rights groups paint a darker picture. Activists say Venezuela continues to hold hundreds of political prisoners, many detained after the contested 2024 election that Maduro claimed to win. Independent observers widely criticized that vote as undemocratic. In a rare development, dozens of prisoners were released from Venezuelan jails this week, according to rights groups. None of them were American. Advocacy organizations say the releases appear selective and do little to ease concerns about arbitrary detentions. As Washington tightens the screws and Caracas digs in, the fate of detained Americans looms as a volatile flashpoint. With sanctions rising, strikes expanding, and diplomacy strained, officials warn the standoff is entering a phase where human lives may become instruments of state power.